Okay, I think we're here now in the room now, and so we just wait for 9 o'clock. We will start it. So, Dr. Shen, how are you? You're in Shanghai
Good.
now, right?
Yes, yes. It's a very nice weather here in Shanghai in the spring. It's pretty warm and nice. And
You're
people
just,
starting going out. Yes, starting
yeah.
going out with masks. Yeah.
Yeah, I just chatted with you a few days ago. I think it seems the life is going back to normal in Shanghai, and also you're just back from the Labor holiday. So how was the holiday? Did you go out?
Yeah, so we did go out sightseeing. Everybody was excited. We went to Zhejiang, the pretty much countryside, climbing mountains. Went to the like a village to stay a few days there. It was very refreshing, very very refreshing. Yeah,
Wow.
we collected the bamboo shoots and you had a very local meals. It was very good. It's long due, yeah, activities.
That's nice. Actually, I have been home for 65 days now. Today is the
Wow, you're counting the dates.
Actually, we different. We can every other 10 days, we can our team was kind of remember and how unforgettable moment, right? And also, so it's actually we are in New York and the New Jersey area. So most of my team members are in this area. So we kind of in the heart center of the world. But it seems like going to be better, and so it's really uh, like a strange time. But we really see hope. What is happening in China now is very encouraging. So
Yes, yes, yeah. So even though I'm in Shanghai, I'm still very closely watching everything happening in New York because my daughter is there. You know, my
yeah,
older daughter, she's in New York City, so everything happens there. Really, was connected with us. So um, hopefully, you know, it can be resolved as we did here. Yeah.
yes, I think it's going back to normal. Uh, the hospital, the mobile hospital in the Central Park have been removed. So the hospital is going back to be better, and all the doctors from other area went back to home. So, but I think we just need to stay home more and to keep the virus spread out slowly, right? Or stop it. But definitely, so thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we also have so everyone, welcome to MSQ webinar. And today I'm so honored to have Dr. Shen, the CEO of I-Mab, to join us. Also have my partner from Beijing, Dr. Shang, joining us. So hope everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day. And there is such a nice coincidence. We have Dr. Shen, the first female CEO, and in our webinar. So, and also at the Mother's Day. Hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I did receive like surprise flowers from my daughters and the greetings from New York. So really rewarding, you know, being a woman and a mother. Really, I think it fulfill the role, make me feel life is fulfilling regardless the frustrations and challenges. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's a difficult time, and also especially your daughter. I heard she's a musician, right? It's totally different from what you are doing.
Yes, yes. Both of my children, both girls, are very passionate about arts, music. So the older one's in New York. She's like a violinist. She has her own band with her, you know, band. I think it's called Pink Noise, and she has been building her territory or business in New York City. That's what she's passionate about. She graduated from Julia, and then the other one, she's in Shanghai with me. She's also very good at piano. So
Wow.
yeah, rehearsing for some like, you know, small business just for fun. Yeah.
So that was your passion too when you were a kid. Your passion about music, and why did you choose to go to be the scientist?
Well, there are some historical reasons because my father was a musician and also an artist, very passionate about it. But then because of the special situations in China during Cultural Revolution, he had a very hard time. So he warned us, you have to go to science, but arts, music can be your hobby. So that's how we, changed in our career. But we had kept the family, this tradition, of music events and or sharing arts and music. So it was really, I think it's in the blood.
So where do you see the difference to be the scientist and the musician, or how do you kind of like, what's the advantage like to bring the musician, the qualification or the personality to scientist?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I kept thinking about that, because I'm a psychiatrist. I see the like a harmony between art and your scientific visions. So you really are, when you are learning music, you learned how to be persistent, right, and contribute and to like devoted, and then to how to I would say it's very soothing for your soul and for like reducing your distress. And on the other hand, I think, some logic thinkings are there as well. So we are talking about the right brain, the left brain. I think it's a balance of balance of the neurons and also the thinking. So when you are in the science part, you really have to be driven, I think, and have to understand not just the science itself, to naturally understand other people and then orchestrating everything, especially doing the science and like being entrepreneur type. So you have to orchestrate every components to make it work. So to me, it's very similar to, how to make good music.
Yeah, that sounds like a very romantic scientist.
We're trying to make it fun, otherwise it's too boring, right? Complaining about science, but I think it's fun, if you think that way, doing, in a way, you feel very, very rewarded.
That's maybe that's how made you are so special and outstanding from other scientists.
Well, still learning, yes.
Yeah. So we know like you have been actually like a pioneer of the China new drug development, and so you have the more than 20 years work experience in the top pharmaceutical company in US, and then you moved to China for 8 years and actually help their top pharmaceutical company like Johnson & Johnson build their presence in China. And now you kind of like a pioneer and to build the Chinese company. And so let's see, I think it's kind of like a dream career, right? Like also the combination of the Western and the Eastern. So can you just share with us more how was the journey, and so what are your takeaway from that?
Well, thank you. Actually, just like, to continue our conversation on music, I think it's all follow your passion. So like my daughter, she's following her passion to become a musician. And I also follow my passion to come to where I am. I didn't have a very clear path to begin with. So all I know is I wanted to learn the most advanced science or other aspects in my life. So I just follow that passion and thought, starting from China and then moved to US to learn advanced science, and then decided to be a clinician and a scientist. That's how I also recertified as a physician in US, and then starting to work on academic and the industry. And then after 20 years there, I just also see the needs to expand our territories in new drug development in China and in the rest of the world. And I feel I knew China, I knew how to do it, and I knew the culture in both sides. So when I was in Pfizer, and then I was assigned or sent back to China for global drug development, which is how I was led to the path coming back to China. But at the time, I thought it was just temporary, and I will just go back after I finish the assignment. However, I stayed because the opportunity is there, and I always feel the passion, with the people and the passion for new drug development, because there are so many patients who needs the new drugs. And at the time, the system was not very advanced. So I feel the needs and the mission to do that, and also fulfill my career dreams. So that's how little by little I stayed longer and longer. I keep telling my younger daughter, yes, we will go back to US after you finish middle school, and let's definitely do that after you finish high school. Now it's like, you go back to US, I'll stay longer. So yeah, it is not, like I said, have any particular frame or like a destination. I think it's just follow the opportunity and the passion. So I think I'm anticipating like in the future, it's not like staying in US or China, it's in between. That's where I feel the value and the needs are. So I will probably likely continue to be traveling between these two countries, bridging the understanding, bridging the science. Ultimately, it's very, very rewarding to have the patients like getting the right treatment, the new drugs. I think that is without borders. So I feel very like fulfilling about it.
I think really like China biotech industry also needs your background and the experience. So what was the challenge you had when you just first moved back to China after 20 years in US? Because 8 years ago was quite different from today, right? It's the last few years, China probably have been grow like expandedly, probably we have to say probably equal to 50 years in US. So what were the challenges?
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of challenges. So even though I moved back to China 8 years, however, I have kept the connections because I had, my two medical schools in China. One is the Southeast and the other one is West China. So they are all prestigious medical schools. So all my friends, classmates were in those areas. So I feel I have the connection to understand China's healthcare system. So that's why I volunteered in my extra time at work in Lilly, Wyeth, and Pfizer to help initiate some of the global tasks in China. So I was considered as like the expert. So people came to me for questions about China, and also I have been traveling in between to help understanding the GCP and the China's regulatory environment. However, when I came back to China completely, I feel like first you have to learn what's happening in China. Even the language are like the young people created a lot of new language, which I have to relearn. And I didn't know how to type in Chinese, especially technically, because we used to write, right? And now it's everything's typing. And so all of these are more challenging. People feel like you are part of them, but you are not, because after so many years. And then so you have to reconnect with your classmates, with the physicians, and then also the healthcare systems are different. So I still remembered one time I had to wait outside of the physicians, the very important physician's office for 2 hours, just want to be seen by him. But the outcome is very good. Well, he felt like, I was part of his people, and then he felt sorry. And then in the future, afterwards, and we became friends. So, but this is also like relearning the culture, the people, and then you have to make extra effort to be understood. And to help them. So the industry people is not inferior to like academic physicians, and we are speaking at the same language. So it takes a while. That's some of learning. And also for later on the domestic companies, the dynamics structures are also very different from US international pharmas. The people are like thinking differently. But the one big challenge is international pharmas, they have a very mature system. But for domestic ones, you have to build almost starting from scratch. And then the talents. So at the time, China just started to open up for a new drug development. You can imagine it is very big shortage for the talents who understand the game, how to play the games in terms of drug development. So all of these make you feel, but it's also opportunity. Those challenges are opportunities because you can teach them to learn starting from scratch, And also you are more needed than you are in US. So you are just one of the medical monitor, you are one of those executives in the big pharmas. But here you can take the lead as far as you want. So you can make big changes. So that's where we see the big value of ourselves, and then because of the needs and because the patients, really need the new drugs. So we feel like there's so much we have learned in the US, we can bring that to China. So through all those reconnection with the physicians, with the societies, and with all the regulatory agents, we feel, we are making the difference. So again, to have a long answer to your short questions, yes, it's a lot of challenges, but it could be really turned out to be opportunities.
Yes, that's very inspiring. So, in the past 8 years, what do you see, or what are like big milestones China made in biotech and the pharma industry? Like, I think the past 8 years is kind of like China from no name to be like every day the news. Even like in the past, even such a difficult time. Actually, my firm MSQ, we are doing the bring the innovative drugs to China market. We're super busy, and the people from Korea, from Israel are come to contact us and tell us they wanted to figure out how can their drugs to be developed in China. So this is really amazing, and also as Chinese lives in US now, make me very proud of it. So as an insider, as you as expert, what do you see the changes and milestone China made to make from the 8 years ago to today?
Yes, there's a lot of, I think, significant changes. It's hard to pinpoint one. I think it's a combination of multiple factors. I think one of the major impact is the economic improvement. So China become a very large economic country, very influential. And that really requires that people's quality of life, right? They really wanted to elevate the quality of life. And then of course that cannot be without the health, in system improvement. So I think the patient's needs are driving the biotech changes and driving the needs for the regulatory environment changes. So one of the, I still remember, it was just newly joined J&J at the time, but one of the major changes, the regulatory changes is in 2015, they called like 40 documents issued to dramatically change the regulatory environment to encourage the innovations and also encourage the any innovation from any part of the world, instead of having a very restricted policies to favor the domestic over the international. So at the time, China started to really open for the best drug, best innovated compound coming to China. So that is the big game change. And the next year following that, they had issued the sequential new policies and regulations, which really started to, I would say, discard many of these old, not efficacious or not safe drugs or development. So they started to, I remember, dismiss almost like 86% of these old submissions and the new drugs. So to give the benefit to the truly high quality and high safety or efficacy profile to really come into the market. So that also, make the people wake up, like, yes, we have to adapt a new system to have a science drive the new drug development. So that's another one. And another change I feel is a lot of overseas talents started to come back to China. They are the ones have the vision and experiences in the West, and then they brought back to China the spirit and also the expertise. And then they started to play a lot more significant roles. I think part of it, just like me, bringing back the difference, what we have learned in the US, and then trying to convince the people and the expert and the regulatory agents the needs to open up and then to speak in a scientific way. So to have them accept it. So you can tell a lot of new biotech nowadays were led by the returnees.
Yes.
So yes. Yes, so sea turtle, what they call, right? Sea turtle. So yes, it is amazing how this opportunity stand out. And then lastly, I want to mention, I think it's the capital and the support. Yeah, a lot of investment coming to support the new drug like development. So like I-Mab, we had completed at the time, I still remember 2 years ago, we have obtained the largest C round financial fundraising at the time. So which is over 200 million US dollar. That is unheard at the time. So those support really helped us to really accelerate the drug development in China. So the funding support, yes.
Thank you. And so you just mentioned about the I-Mab. Actually, you have been working with all the top pharmaceutical company. So why did you decide to join I-Mab back to that time when you joined was compared to Johnson & Johnson and the Pfizer probably is a small baby, right? I think it's still so much uncertainty there. How did you make such a decision?
Well, actually, coming to I-Mab is easy for me because it's to me at the time, it was the perfect combination of what I have dreamed of to build a company with like international pharma as a standard, but also had I would say customized to the China's needs. So since I had worked in both domestic pharmas in Hungary particularly, and also all these international pharma, so I see the needs and see how to play the games. And then we bring these two benefits, advantages together and become I-Mab. So I-Mab is not like simply adaptation of international pharma or domestic pharma itself. So that's pretty much like what I have dreamed of. Yeah, so the big changes was when I joined Hungary, from Pfizer. So like I mentioned to you, I was sent by Pfizer to China, and then 2 years after, all the global program does not work back in USMAP, was halted because of the problems. So then Hungary is starting to stand out as a one domestic company, but starting to invest in the new drug development. So that is where the opportunity came up. So I was very one of the very few who are able to or have the gut to join like a domestic pharma like that. So it's really like eye-opening, and it is a lot of challenges to adapt. So, but you do have the passion to feel people there, they are so willing to learn new things. And however, they have the old system, need a lot of people to take care of. So it's not easy. So they are in the transformational stage. Then you can be part of it. So make you feel the needs. And then you also see some of the disadvantage to carry these old burdens. So that's where you feel like the future company need to really be better in a way, in not having this historical burden, but also not have the bureaucracies of the international pharmas. That's why, again, to answer your questions about why I joined I-Mab, and because this is really the novel company, I feel like we can really make a big changes. And then lastly, it's because Dr. Zhang, he was my actual long-term friend, and also I know him. He's a very outstanding scientist and clinicians. So I have all the respect of him. So he approached me, spent 2 hours, and discuss about his vision and his strategies. I felt like exactly what I wanted. So without hesitating, I joined the company. So that's where
wonderful. And so actually, you just also mentioned about the I-Mab have been like very attractive to the investors, have been like raised the largest C round, and then actually successfully listed on NASDAQ on the January this year, and also is at the high valuation $800 million. And actually the stock price have been going up since. So could you share with us what's the secret there and to attract so many the investors, because still so many of the biotech companies still struggle, and especially this year, right? And the capital market is not that healthy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's also complicated. First, I have to say we are in the right time with the right people. So that's very important. So right timing, as we shared earlier, the China after 10 years of transformational changes for innovative drug development, it comes to a stage, it's kind of booming for the style biotechs to coming up. But I-Mab, it was founded at this time, I think it's the beginning of 2016. So that is where I think all the fundings or the regulatory environment is starting to support. So it's the right timing. And secondly, of course, it's the very, I would say that, talented people are coming together. So right now, I think the investors, especially Asian investors, many of them do not have the in-depth of the drug development experiences. However, they do know whom they should follow. So they wanted to see the team, right? Especially the founders and also executive team who can really bring in the expertise and with their track records. So that is what they wanted to see. And thirdly, I think it's more so how you can deliver and what your strategies, how you can deliver. So you have to have a convincing strategy to telling them how you can bring up the commercial value, and also how you can bring the talents together and to deliver as you promised. So all these coming together, as we have shown since like A-round, B-round, because Dr. Zhang at the beginning to show the strategy and focusing on immunology. So that is in our blood. Our scientists and our founder all very good at immunology. So we don't do anything else. We do whatever we are best at. So for immunology, we divide into immuno-oncology and autoimmune diseases. And then all the way along from our discovery, we had all the compound with understanding of biology and immunology. So we came up with the very differentiated compounds. And then also we build around it the development team also with the expertise in that area. So that's why we are focusing on the in-licensing the compound in these areas to really fast develop to the commercial stage. So that helps us to build. And then in the same time, we're waiting for the discovery to come up with a compound. And then our strategy also is global. So we had the first in human studies in US, and then after the validation of those qualities and of those targets, and we quickly expanded to both China and the US development, because China has a lot of patients. So, in the years now, you can hardly find any treatment naive, like IO treatment naive patients, but in China, they still do. So if you wanted to have a drug to quickly demonstrate this efficacy and safety, China has a huge patient population. So you can leverage both sides in terms of the regulatory benefit as well as the patients' populations. So in that way, you can fast track to the commercializations as quick as you can. So that is how we feel all the strategies have so far worked, and we have delivered what we promised, including, like we mentioned, last year in January we had the 3 IND approval in FDA. So we submitted, we promised, and then we did it. And then in the same time, we submitted to China regulatory agents. We also, promised to have the IND approval, which we do. And then also we had delivered the outcome as we had promised. So far, I think all these coming together, the team and our strategies and our deliverables, and of course in the right time, in the right environment, as well as the funding support. So that is coming to, we believe, the essential components for success so far.
Thank you for sharing that successful factors. And I think I read a lot of news actually mention about the I-Mab is not only like to do the things in China speed, but it's I-Mab speed. Just like you said, it's just like 1 year you filed 3 IND in your with the FDA. That is really impressive. So next, I would like to invite you to share with all the audience more about the successful facts of I-Mab. And after that, we will open the Q&A section. Actually, we already have the audience send the question already, so we will continue that conversation after your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So how much time do I have?
20 minutes. Yeah, 15,
okay.
20 minutes.
Okay, so I will have a few slides to share with the audience, and so we can keep up the discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you will share the screen?
Yes, I will share the screen. Yes. Here. This one, right? Yes. Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I will quickly go to our presentation. So these slides showed our company's path. So for the last 4 years, as you can tell, we started in an angel fund 4 years ago, 2016, and with US dollar 2.3 million. That's where we started the discovery. Have a very, very small office in Shanghai. And then we completed Series A a year, not even a year, in the end of that year with those capital support, as you can tell from there. The biggest support is the CBC Group. It was a new fund, I think at the time in China. And in the third quarter of 2017, we completed the B round with 120 million. And then, like I mentioned later in 2018, we finished Series C. That was the largest C round at the time in China. And then we, moving forward with all the funding support to go on NASDAQ in January of this year. So it's right timing. Right after that, the coronavirus outbreak probably halt everything. So. As I also shared with you, we had a very prestigious management team, started with Dr. Zhen, who had, as you can tell, all those experiences from Harvard, from Europe, and from US as a professor, and came back to China, built immunology research institute, and also being the head of R&D GSK in China. And then he also joined a big domestic pharmas since year before he founded this company. And all, I, as myself, and we don't have to need to mention too much. And all, we have Dr. Zheru Zhang, who is the outstanding expert in CMC. And we had the same, our CFO, who is Jian Zhu, who also had all this very prestigious education background and came from Jeffrey. So all of these give us like a team who had share the same international view. And then I think the another component I think attract the investors and also the external attentions was our really branding and R&D team. So soon after I joined the company, we decided to build the US presence in the East Coast. So we selected Maryland in DC area and built our office where now we already have more than 20 employees focusing on clinical operations. And then we, as you can tell with all the squares, we had pretty much every functions in big international pharmas has. It's just a smaller, leaner, and to oversee all the drug development by leveraging our partners and the CROs, which I will mention later. So all those functional leaders has average of more than 15 years of experiences, which is very rare in China. You will have seen a lot of biotech and they are very strong in science, very strong in discovery, but it's very, very hard to build this development team in such a short time because of shortage of talents. So I think, you know, on our like, you know, executive teams, its reputation really helped, especially, you know, it's myself who had this track records. So that helped to attract a lot of talents coming to join us. And I also mentioned to you about our strategies, but these slides just laid out our basic strategies for China portfolio and the global portfolio. For China, the blue one is a China strategy where we license in a lot of compounds which already demonstrate the safety profile or some of them efficacy profile in the phase 1 or phase 2, so we can quickly move to phase 3, where I will mention a few upfront front runners which are very close to commercialization. And for a global strategy, those compounds discovered, developed by our scientists from the lab is now pushing to the clinical stage. And that's where we can bridge both our discovery and development capabilities, and with our own assets, we have all these global rights, and then we can expand it from China to US. So all these strategies help us first quickly build our organization instead of waiting for discovery coming to play, and then secondly to quickly move our company to the commercializations. So far it works well. So overall, we have many other assets, but we have a very strict criteria which we believe we have to meet very differentiated, best-in-class criteria, which we selectively keep all these here on this table. So far, the blue ones are the China portfolio. We have 5 assets in development. You can tell there are 2 of them in the phase 3 stage, especially for our CD38 monoclonal antibody, which we licensed in for MorphoSys, are now in the development for multiple myeloma indications with 2 clinical trials. It's currently on target to be commercialized in 2 years. So we are submitting BLA next year after. We should be able to get onto the market if everything's go well. And the second one is our differentiated long-acting growth hormone, which we licensed in from Genexen, our Korea partner. Currently also is in preparation for IND submissions in China in the middle of this year. And then we also have IL-6 inhibitor from Ferring, and then our B7-H3 antibodies from MacroGenics last year, and also our IL-7, long-acting IL-7 also from Genexen. For global assets, I will spend a little more time to discuss with you about our top niche innovative compounds, but here, as you can tell, we have 5 monoclonal antibody in the development. Beyond that, we have multiple bispecifics also in the preclinical stage, which should come into play towards the end of this year and early next year. So it's a busy pipeline and very stretched teamwork, but we leverage, like I mentioned, all our partners and CRO's capabilities. So this table just gave you the overview of our 4 front runners. 2 of those blue ones are in the China portfolio, which we own this Greater China rights in the development. And right now, everything's ongoing. Even with the COVID-19 pandemic, we still are on target for patient recruitment. Actually, we had a rebound of the patient recruitment right after the pandemic in control in China. So we actually are busier to recruit patients who are already waiting in the line during the outbreaks. And then, so for TJC4 and the TJD5 are from our global assets. which both are in the development in China and the US simultaneously. So those are the one we felt has the most value to our short-term and long-term. So maybe I'll spend like a minute or two to discuss with you about our TGC4, which is CD47 monoclonal antibody. We believe it's very differentiated because almost 4 years ago, when we started the company, we started to invent this compound. By understanding the biology or clinical needs, we know this is great target. However, because of the target-related hemolysis, because on the red blood cells, a lot of CD47 receptors, if you bind this compound with those receptors, you could cause very severe anemia, which we don't want to see. So we designed to find a rare type of this antibody which does not bind to red blood cell. As you can tell, we select those antibodies with red blood cell. If it causes hemolysis, we discard it. So until finally we found 2 out of almost 1,000 to have this feature, which is binding to tumors but not to the red blood cells. And there's a lot of rationale behind it. We gradually demonstrated. So, but in the same time, we wanted to also make sure it has the capacity for tumor activities. So we had actually synthesized some 5F9 from 47, and then we have compared almost like head-to-head to see the tumor binding capacities. We did not lose any capacities, in the same time spare the red blood cell bindings. So further demonstrated this potential had a greater efficacy and a better safety profile. So first of the demonstration is our GLP tox studies. We had done 40 monkey studies with the dose ranges from 1 milligram to 100 milligram per kilo, which didn't show very significant or any like grade 3 anemia. So that gave us confidence. This drug does show what we have designed for. Gradually now in the clinical trials, it's demonstrating the safety profile gradually. So we are anticipating in the middle of this year, we'll be able to finish the first part of the dose cohort escalation in the US. And at the time, we will find a venue to release the data. In the same time, in the China part, we started these hematologic indications in the patient. We had a very abbreviated dose cohort expansion. And so by early next year, we also should have some data available for the patients in AML and MDS. So that will give us more confidence on how the compound is able to demonstrate its capacities in the safety profile on both hematologic indications as well as solid tumors. So these, I think, is the ones that people have rumors about. And then another one is our TGD5, is actually CD73 monoclonal antibody. We also have a very differentiated antibody, which because of time, I'm not going to have a very detailed description. But one of the main features is it has an intradimerization features. That means it will it will bind to two of the binding sites, which will not result in the they call the hook effect or the U-shape effect. That means when the dose increase, it will increase the binding and increase the PK profile instead of the U-shaped one, which means when the dose increased, sometimes actually the PK profile decreased and the binding decreased. So this results in a small window of safety. So in our case, we didn't see that. We believe clinically is a benefit. So right now we are in US for the studies for dose escalation in combination with PD-L1. And then as yesterday in China, we have also complete the first patient dosing with this compound we will soon finish the dose escalation in a single agent, and then we'll start the combination treatment with PD-1 in China as well. So we believe because of this potential for targeting the tumor microenvironment, we will, in combination treatment, we will see the effect after we complete all the studies. So hopefully in the middle of next year, we should, the end of this year, we should see the safety profile. And then moving forward, we'll continue to generate more data, both from US and China. Now I will spend a few words about our third compound. I think, remember, I mentioned to you, we submitted 3 IND in US last year. This is actually the first one we submitted IND, and we completed the first in human studies in US as well. It's demonstrated a very good safety profile with those we had conducted. And also it has a very straightforward PK profile and other, like all the potential biomarkers showing these, those related capacities. So we moved back to China, submitted IND for the indications in the rheumatoid arthritis areas. We also got approval. So this, GM-CSF is the first monoclonal antibody generated from China. So in US or in the rest of the world, we know there's a multiple GM-CSF antibodies in development, but none of them have been approved for any indications. So this one, we are continuing pursuing from China and in US. So we thought we will be developing these for autoimmune disease indications, and we are also preparing for developing the indication to treat cytokine release syndrome associated with the CAR-T treatment. But at the same time, we know early this year, because of the pandemic of these coronavirus infections, it actually showed this antibody could have potential to treat patients who are having the over hyperreactions of immune systems in these infections, which may result in deteriorations of the disease and even to death. So this time, in a special time, we waited to see what is going on. And then, so this graph showed you GM-CSF is on the top of those switchboard, which could result in a cascade of the cytokine release in the end to cause the problems I mentioned. So we feel, well, the feature of this cytokine release syndrome is very similar to what we have observed in the CAR-T related. So we immediately believe this could have a potential for treating the severe patient, which accounts for about 20% of the patient populations. And then, so we initiated the studies, like a discussion with the regulatory agents, which I will later discuss with you. So on the right side, you can tell I added this graph because it was just came out a few days ago I think it's May 11th, from the Kinika Pharmaceuticals webpage. They had an open label study of the similar compound, which had demonstrated a very significant benefit to the patient. We, in their study treatment team, they had 0 patient death, but on the other arms, they have multiple. So this, of course, this is just among many other benefits they had revealed. So further demonstrating GM-CSF have this potential to treat patients. So this is what we do, or what we did in the past. So with the data we generated in US last year, we got China's approval for indications in the rheumatoid arthritis patients. With all this data, we started to, because of the team, we believe with this pandemic, we wanted to do something to benefit patients, to maximize the compound potential. So we chose this one first to design an open label study, using the potential compassionate use category to pursue in China and Korea. At the time, the pandemic, it was very hardly hit in these two territories. However, after multiple discussions with the regulatory agents and also the PIs, who are all very supportive of that, but China had come up to a very quick control of these situations. So, and then US started to have these infections. So we quickly moved to the US and had a multiple discussion with the FDA. As you can tell from this, we decided with pursuing that in US with a double-blind, placebo-controlled study type, which is most scientific at the way. So beginning in China and pursuing that in US, which is very, very short, within a month, after submitting this IND, we actually got approval within 3 working days. Of course, before the submission, we had a multiple discussion with KOLs, PIs, and the regulatory agents. So in the same day of approval, we also got the central IRB approval. So a week after we initiated the trial with our US team's efforts and supported by our China colleagues. So by last week, we have completed the first part of the study, which will be assessed by our DMC members who will make recommendations how to move forward. But so far, we are very optimistic. We will be able to move to the second part, which is larger patient population for a randomized trial, which will give us more data in terms of its efficacy and safety. Hopefully, we can have a path moving forward to bring that to the patients. So before I complete my presentation, I just wanted to show without our partnerships, we cannot get everything done. As we have a very small organization. Right now, we have about overall 200 employees scattered around the world. And we had multiple partnerships from the compound partnership to the discovery, and manufacturing, and our CRO for clinical development. Lastly, here I just want to show you our financial situations. As we already mentioned, we had completed or successfully about the financial fundraising so far. Since our January listing in NASDAQ, we have already raised the fund, which is listed here. We had in the US fund is 114 million US dollars in addition to our fundraising fund. So we have cash reserve right now with more than 200 million US dollars to support largely of our R&D activities. So for R&D spendings, and you can tell from 2018 to 19, we had increased dramatic because of our program development. But as an R&D organization, we're not just completely spending the money. We also generated some monies from our assets licensing out. So the right up part is like historical revenue, where it tells you what we have generated. Because, for example, the PD-L1, we licensing out to our domestic companies. We believe because the market is too crowded in China, so we licensing out this compound and reserve the right for bispecific development or other compound development. So these are, the financial situation which ensured our R&D activities in the next 2 years. And of course, we will continue to looking for the potentials, including the licensing including partnerships and then other activities. So I just, to summarize, we believe the I-Mab is just representing one of those growing startups in China, which has captured opportunities in the world for the drug development. And we also believe we are very focusing on immuno-oncology, which is our strength. And then we truly believe this is also the areas need to have a lot of innovations and also with global collaborations. So lastly, the challenge is always there, and then it can be also opportunities for an expansion, and because the patient's needs are there, and that's why we are working here for. Okay, I'll stop here and taking any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shen. That's a great presentation. And also, it's very exciting the moment for I-Mab, and so many of their assets. So I-Mab has already have the 5 clinical assets for China strategy and the 11 clinical and preclinical assets for global strategy. For such a young company, I think that's very complicated pipeline. So what's the pipeline strategy, and what were the criteria for selecting these assets for China and the global market?
Okay, that's a good question. I think we had our particular criteria. First is we have to meet certain like best in class or first in class criteria. We need to choose from. So we have many actually from discovery. You know, now we only show you these like 10 clinical stage and the 6 others in preclinical. But in reality, we have many others. During the development, we select with the criteria I mentioned to. If you cannot find very striking out differentiations, and or if it's not meeting the criteria we had predefined, we will just discard it or licensing out for other companies who may still have this value. And then secondly, we focus on IO, immuno-oncology, but except for the long-acting growth hormone, which had very potential benefit for other reasons. So with all these strict criteria, and then we were able to only preserve the compound we had for the most values. First, to build our expertise to develop it most efficiently. So secondly, to maximize the financial potential, to enable the potential commercial success in the future. So we don't want to do me too, yeah, or me better. Or in some of them, long run, maybe even me worse. So that was not like many other domestic companies. They had, very, I would say, like a good taste for many compounds, but we are very selective. So we believe now it's more challenging, but we have the confidence because of our group and our talents, our organization are built for this very challenging and high quality compound development.
That's great. And so the clinical trial in China, actually, especially for you just mentioned for the first in class or best in class assets, and are not that very established yet because they don't have so much experience before, right? So how does your team manage such a challenge?
Actually, I think if it's like 8 years ago when I came back to China, the quality of clinical trials is not to the standard yet. But I think nowadays it's much improved. There are especially our PIs who become very experienced, and then they are learning very fast. And secondly, our talent team from pharmaceuticals are also learning very fast, led by the returnees. So I can give you a few examples. For example, recently BeiGene have their BTK approved for mantle cell lymphoma in US, which is exclusively for the phase 2 data, using the phase 2 data for generated in China, led by the China PI. And then yes, so of course their phase 1 is in Australia and then the phase 2 in US. So in China. So based on those data, this is very new in China, and the US, which exclusively using the data generated from China to get the indications by FDA. And the Dr. Rick Pasteur, and then he was in China multiple times. He really was very impressed by the new China regulatory environment and the capacity for drug development. So, and also for J&J, when I was in J&J, we did multiple global trials. That means China contributed very big part of the data set for US submission or European submissions. So it become a norm that China can do as good in terms of quality to support the global trials. So, but even more so is the advantage of patient recruitment. The speed is much faster because there are so many patients, like I mentioned to you. So of course, it's not saying without more improvement, it is. However, as long as you generate or introduce the high standard and able to have a group or the team to supervise, to oversight the executions, and it is now more and more popular and a norm that China has generated the data which is comparable to the US data or the rest of the world to support the global submissions as well as China submissions. Yeah. So the government also is very strict on the quality. Yeah.
And so the audience really wanted to find your secret. So they ask her, because of that, it's just like clinical in China, it's because you hired a very experienced team to oversee. That's his must to have for the successful clinical trial in China.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So you do have a core team who is very capable of learning, capable of oversight the performance of our CROs, and then so have a continued discussion with the sites. So, like for example, right now our GM-CSF studies in US, we have a very experienced team in US who are able to discuss with the PIs, KOL. They told me they actually reach out more than 70 sites to ask them if they have interest, and also to select among all these and come out of like 20, and then to quickly execute. So if you don't have this experienced sites, you even don't know how to pursue. And then these sites also, many of them have both good in English and Chinese. So we have an ongoing 24-hour discussion with the China team. Yeah, so you have to have the talents who are very good at communicating, understanding the games in both sides, and then to really have alignment to pursue the high quality of studies. Yeah, and then I'm fortunate, I have you can tell, rotated in the industry, had a very big group of followers. So if I need them, I tell them what I'm doing, and they are very interested in. So it's very easy. Most of my direct reports, I even don't use the job hunters. I just call them, and then they will join me. So that is one of the benefits, when you have this background and they wanted to build a clinical team.
So actually, you are the expert. You are even the news like a reporter. You are the expert for the China new drug clinical trial development. So what do you see? Do you still see the gap between China and the US clinical trial, and or you see actually in the future, actually China will be the leading player globally?
Yes, I think in China we will continue to reinforce the importance of new drug development to help with the ecosystem to support it. So including the talent pool, with still a big shortage, and also the regulatory environment could be as they build their experiences. So we have a lot of new reviewers, and they are still learning. So also we need to have more industry experienced people invest in China to help to build the ecosystem. So I think that's where we wanted to do more work. And then secondly, the advantage is also very obvious to understand the healthcare system, to provide develop a more rewarding system for innovations. And then but the patient's needs will drive the market. So we are very positive that this change will towards that direction, rewarding the innovations, getting the patients the right medicines shorter, cheaper, but faster. So all these will help us to targeting to guide us of our strategies or development directions. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's very exciting. Actually, our last webinar, Dr. Wang from Harper, that he also mentioned actually China can contribute to the US and Europe now because the COVID-19, what's going on here, and actually made it very difficult for the biotech company to initiate the new study here. So probably like China can be the backup plan, and for them to initiate the new clinical trial study. And I think what you just provide insight actually just reconfirmed that like a practical can be initiated. That's very exciting. I think just because of the patient numbers of patient can really speed up the medicine
Yes.
development. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I know you have like one asset is very famous is CD47. And recently, I think that is huge news. Already reported you are shopping for their like a partnership of like a valuation at $2 billion US. And so do you want to just kind of give us some insight what's going on there?
Yeah, well, actually, we were upset as well, and we are actually aware of this article, but this is the content were not really validated by our source, and then they before the publication. So we believe this is not validated, and we at this moment we cannot say anything definitive. But we are not in a position to comment on that. But again, we just want to state it very, very clear. This is not the comment or statements coming from our company. It's not validated, with any like outcome of facts. So that's where. But I think for long run, like I mentioned, we always look for partnership. For collaboration, especially for reputable international pharmas to to win the compound development, the better way in a larger territories. That is our goal. But for no specific things we can release at this moment. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Actually, the company 47, the one acquired by Gilead for $4.9 billion. So what do you see the difference between your 47 and that 47?
Well, that is clear, but they are the first in class, that's for sure. And then they have a brand team, and they are same old that Chris Takimoto is my very good friend. So overall, ours is very differentiated. As I mentioned, we had a much better profile in terms of the safety hemoglobin binding. So in the end, we believe that will be a tremendous advantage, for patient treatment. So will not be limited by the dosing strategies, will be not limited by, because of the severe hematological adverse events. So we can expand more or export more areas. So ultimately, we believe this can lead to the clinical benefit in terms of efficacy and also safety profile as well. So they are the first in class, but we believe we can have the very differentiated compound with different values. And yeah, they are very successful, but we are also encouraged. But we have more than just CD47. We have multiple assets. We have in our a pipeline. So we are very excited. And if one compound can bring that value, we have multiple compounds.
Yes, for sure. Actually, the CEO Mark of 47 come to our webinar 2 years ago, and I really encouraged him to say you should do the clinical trial in China, or you should partner with a Chinese company. I think he would think about that, and then was acquired by Gilead. Do you just I just wanted to make an assumption or maybe imagination if 47 back to 2 years ago started clinical trial in China, was be a threat to your 47?
Well, I think they could have or they should have, because now if you really want to capture the second largest market in the world in terms of the drug drug commercialization, really now they are behind us. Definitely not talking about the differentiation in the compound, but also capture the opportunity to start this compound development in China. And first is for China market. If they started 2 years ago, it's very different pictures. And by now, we in China we're definitely ahead. And secondly, they could have even accelerated their global program if China is being part of it. But now, they have to submit the IND, getting approval, and it takes a year overall. So in that sense, I think they could have done even better. Yeah.
Okay.
Or earlier.
Yeah, that's thank you for that insight. And also because of time, so I will take the last question. Actually, this question is a bigger question. What do you think the future of a Chinese farmer in US after the COVID-19?
I think it's, again, we did not believe we have this territorial label, like, oh, we are China pharma, we're US pharma. But I think innovation is without border. So we have subsidiaries in US, which is, standing out itself. So I think, we are just part, if in that sense, we are not different from US small biotech. We continue to grow as long as the environment support. So we are committed to develop both in US and China. I think that put us in a very unique position to have this visions or operational support on both sides. So for example, COVID-19 could be have a very epidemic issues in US or in the Asian. So wherever it goes, we can adjust it based on the patient population. As last Monday, FDA issued a new guidance in terms of how to handle this pandemic, COVID-19 disease, clinical trials. It is clear we need to adjust where the patients are. So this is not like a fixed patient population, like a tumor, like a cancer patient. It is going around, circulating around the world, the countries. So wherever the patients are, we might even adjust the sites of the patients where the sites are. So the same thing as our ongoing development, we need to adjust ourselves. The U.S., China, depending on where the situations are. So we should be very adaptive to this environment change. So that's why I said, I told you we are in a very unique position because of our operations on both the continent. We have this the potential to move around. Yeah.
I just love what you said. The innovation has no boundary, especially that's the treatment for people, right? It should be can be accessible by as many people as it could be. So thank you so much for your wonderful sharing and also the presentation.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yeah, you have a great evening. Yes.
You too. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight. And so that's we have to call it end of the wonderful sharing tonight, and also the morning in China. And I know China is back to normal, and I'm so glad to see everyone enjoy the normal life now. We still on the front line here, and I hope everyone in US and in Europe and will get it better, and we are going to get it better and fight to win this fight. Thank you so much for joining me and joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
赶快参加那个下楼在那个 Boston 5楼是吧？